Good morning, Friday, September 5th. This is the Automotive State of the Union. I'm Kyle Mountsier. My co-host today is the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Greenfield. We're talking Mary's millions, Elon's trillions, Japan's tariffs, and OpenAI. I had to get through that one hot, Steve.
That was a big breath. That was a big breath.
It was ready to go. I felt like there was some sort of I knew that there was a little bit of a pattern to that one, so it felt good. How you been, Steve? It's been a while since we've been together on the
you've been traveling. I've been traveling. It's good to get back together here, and thanks for having me on as always.
Absolutely, I love having you on because you always bring a perspective that I think is a little bit different than mine and Paul's, especially because you have your hands in a lot of these different spaces. Hey, before we get going on the news today, want to let you know about an upcoming Edge webinar that we have with vAuto next Wednesday, September 10th at 2 p.m. We're chatting about missing trades and how to not miss so many of them. So go to asodu.com, scroll down just a little bit, and you can register there. Also, we were at NAMAD last week. Actually, Paul and Errol and Nathan and Spencer on our team were out at NAMAD, and we recorded a ton of conversations. They're all dropping today. So go find NAMAD, NAMAD sessions anywhere where you get your podcasts. Thanks to Mia for helping us out with those. Subscribe so that when they drop, you can listen to them. They're always good. There's some head turners like Patrice Banks saying that she turned down Kelly Clarkson and Jennifer Hudson. I mean, come on.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. So yeah, very interesting stuff. But hey, let's get into the news because there's definitely some interesting stuff today. Check this out. As Tesla courts Elon Musk with a potential $1 trillion pay package, General Motors leadership is also making a move of a different kind. The spotlight is on Mary Barra today, as her stock sales recently may signal some changes or some moves in GM. She has reportedly sold over 40% of her holdings in late August, unloading more than $21 million in a single day, part of a nearly $58 million in sales over the past 6 months. So she's been on the sales train. She's not alone. Chief Accounting Officer Christopher Hatto and Executive VP Rory Harvey also sold sizable chunks. Over the last 90 days, the stock is up 20%, prompting questions about some insider confidence versus cashing in on a high. Meanwhile, over here at Tesla, this $1 trillion comp plan is tied to targets like an $8.5 trillion valuation and robotaxi expansion for Elon Musk. Musk said his Tesla stake would climb back to 25% if the plan succeeds, a move he's calling essential to stay committed. Some wild moves in big money in these two manufacturers, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, well, Mary Barra is 63, right? So I don't know when she's going to punch out and retire. She's had a great run there.
Yeah,
done wonderful things for the company. There are only certain windows when you're, the CEO of a public company where you can actually sell shares, because many times you can around earnings calls, et cetera. And
Sure.
If you look at the share price, here we are almost at an all-time high. It had a peak during COVID when everything was profitable. And so if you were going to sell, now would be a good time to sell. But, there's always questions like she knows more about the company than anyone. Why is she selling right now, et cetera? So we'll see how that all plays out in the public markets. But you can't blame her. She's probably starting to do some planning around retirement, even if it's a couple of years away, and trying to figure out, is now the right time to take some money off the table as opposed to wait? And with the stock price where it is, you really can't blame her. But, Wall Street analysts will be poking and prodding on this one to try to figure it out. Yeah. With Elon, hey, look, Tesla is Elon. Elon is Tesla. He's indicated, that he may keep, some of the AI intellectual property within Tesla, or take it out and put it into X, or put it into SpaceX. I think the challenge right now is just keeping that guy focused. And like they did the last time, if you have really, really aggressive goals, I don't know, can Tesla get from, a $1 trillion market cap to 8 trillion? I have no idea, but if he can make that happen somehow magically, then he should get a good proportion of that. And that seems like, a sound way to keep him focused and incented.
Yeah, for me, I think this all hinges on the robotaxi and the ability to beat Waymo to some of these cities that they probably have mapped just by default because of their ability to already have the user data of so many Teslas being on the road in these cities. And if they can focus on that and kind of like verticalize the entire operation around what, rideshare looks like, that'll totally change the game. It'll actually do what I think that they've been doing for a long time, which is being a data company. It'll lean into being a data company a bit more than a car company, because I think, anything rideshare or robo-taxi is all based on data and your ability to transmit and understand the data of a city and the way that people move. And so if they can pull that off, I think they'll actually have figured out what data as a service, as a car company actually means. So
yeah, that's one engine, and the other is the question around the Optimus robot, right? So he said that there could be a market potentially for 1 million of these things a year at scale, and wants to get the price down to 30 grand per. So the average household could have one or two, right, depending, and outsourcing a lot of the rudimentary repetitive tasks to your robot that's going to be hanging around the house asking you, hey, what can I help with? And but as we've seen, as you guys have reported, a lot of like innovation coming out of China right now with really cheap robots. And so he's got, a lot of competition in that kind of like Optimus humanoid robot space. But to your point, if he can nail AVs and they can prove a sizable market for these Optimus robots, maybe like, maybe a few $1 trillion. I mean, the largest company in the world by market cap now is NVIDIA. I think they're around 4 trillion, but only just recently. And, Tesla would have to break through that threshold. So that's a lot of ifs. And
and doing that as a car company with the Chinese market on his tail globally, very tough. Has to be outside of car tough. Only. Yep.
Very 100%. There's so much pressure right now on the Tesla, the car manufacturing business. He's got to, have a couple of these moonshots hit in order to get there. But I guess if he does, then he should get rewarded.
Yep. Speaking of pressure on the car market.
Stop. Segue.
Globally, specifically. After months of back and forth, the U.S. has officially lowered tariffs on Japanese auto imports, giving Japan's automakers a long-awaited reprieve and setting the stage for billions in investment. President Trump signed an executive order yesterday implementing 15% tariffs on Japanese autos, down from 27.5%. Effective within a week. The order also prevents stacked tariffs on goods like beef and guarantees no levies on airplanes or parts. Toyota, which projected a $10 billion profit hit from the previous tariffs, praised the clarity of the deal. About 80% of Toyota vehicles sold in the U.S. are built in North America. So, obviously, they don't benefit as much as maybe you would expect. Japan committed to $550 billion in U.S. investments and $8 billion in annual purchases of American goods, including corn, chips, and military equipment to help seal the deal. The post from Japan's chief negotiator, Ryoshi Akazawa, was just finally.
Nice.
He's like, we're done.
Yeah. For now. Until next week.
For now.
This is going to be a huge point of frustration for the domestic automakers, GM, Ford, Stellantis, because in many cases they're still paying 25%. The Canadians are up there; they're building cars. If those are imported, they're being taxed at 25%. So it's not fair. You've got like these domestic like U.S. manufacturers that are now being taxed at a higher rate than the Japanese. Great for Toyota, great for Nissan, etc. But I think you're going to have a lot of pushback and blowback from the domestic automakers who are just going to claim, like when they brought lower tariffs for the UK provided vehicles. Yep. Produced vehicles, this is going to be like crying foul and saying, hey, what about us, right? I mean, we're U.S. companies. Should we really be penalized vis-a-vis like the Toyotas of the world?
Yeah, it's really interesting because, U.S. based companies, as far as headquarters versus U.S. manufacturer companies, it's always kind of an interesting claim for me. But obviously for a lot of dealers, their OEMs being very happy about this will certainly have a tune of praise around the halls. So we'll see how things move. This could change in a week. You never know.
Change in a week.
Or speaking of things that change in a week.
Stop. Segue.
Time. We got a couple AI stories. Apple is over here now eyeing Google's AI muscle, their Gemini, and upgrades to Siri. Some comments on that. OpenAI is also putting a lot of boots on the ground to make sure that American workers and businesses aren't left behind in the AI revolution. It looks like Apple is testing Google's Gemini to power AI search summaries in a new feature they're calling World Knowledge Answers. The upgraded Siri aims to challenge AI-powered search platforms by blending their web results with summaries, visuals, and points of interest, possibly debuting in iOS 26.4, which would be kind of a next year iteration of iOS 26 that is expected to come out this year or this month after their keynote. The kind of an interesting thing there as Apple has constantly struggled to stay ahead of or even keep up with the AI game. Meanwhile, OpenAI is rolling out AI certifications to new job platforms. They're partnering with Walmart, John Deere, and over 10 million and others to hopefully certify over 10 million Americans by 2030 is their goal in just the use of AI. They want to give people more access, more understanding so that they can claim jobs where a lot of these companies are finding AI. So there's a lot more democratization of AI coming to platforms like the iPhone, like anything with Apple, and as well as OpenAI trying to plug into Gen Pop with AI education, just a sign of a move from like that first quartile of people understanding it into democratization of the platforms.
Yeah. So Tim Cook at Apple has been under a lot of pressure recently for dragging his feet around AI. So it's good. Right. It's good to see this. In many ways, if you think about where Apple sits in the ecosystem, they're a kingmaker, right? So Google pays Apple $20 billion a year to be the default search engine within Safari. So all of us on our iPhones, by default, we're using Google. Huge contract. But, Apple is realizing that for 22 years in a row, search traffic has increased on Safari. For the first time ever, they're finding, a decrease in search traffic on Safari as people are going to AI searches instead. So Apple has to figure out what their strategy is, one. Two, they can be a kingmaker. There's been speculation they may decouple from Google and throw away that $20 billion contract. And, so your default search within, Safari in the future may not be Google any longer. It may be whatever Apple's coming up with. And whether they embrace OpenAI or they build their own, they can, in many cases, be a kingmaker here. And it could put a world of hurt on Google as a result. So it'll be definitely one to watch. It'll be very interesting. I mean, to your point, AI is becoming ubiquitous. It's going to be all around us, embedded in every single application we use. Pretty soon we aren't going to be calling, it out separately. You're going to be saying, oh, right. Yeah, there's an AI application here or AI is embedded. It's just going to be AI is just part of everything. And it's an interesting world that we're entering here. Because,
I can't imagine. You mentioned the Google search and the queries in Safari and Safari traffic potentially going down. You see all of these new browsers that are coming out, specifically a lot like Perplexity browser and other AI systems bringing browsers, and they're all Chromium, right? They're all based off of Chrome's core thesis for browser interactivity. And that's got to be troubling for them when nobody's developing on top of Safari. People are developing on top of Chromium. And so they lose even more traffic to Google, who's kind of embedded in them. So it is this weird thing. We actually just saw, we didn't cover this, but I think a week or two ago, Google won the antitrust case to keep Chrome, right? Yep. So still just a lot of like battle, even though there's a symbiosis there all at the same time. Kind of a wild ride. As definitely everything is, I guess.
Definitely one to watch. But yeah, there's a lot of there's an arms race around AI right now. And, really, really huge, well-funded companies trying to your point, figure out who's friend and who's foe.
Yeah, I think, and dealers and industry partners are still trying to figure this out as well. We've got a newsletter, autoindustry.ai, that you can pay attention to, where we're trying to bring light to this in the auto vertical every single week. But it would be silly to not have an eye on it right now, even if you're not deep in it, even if you don't utilize it every single day, having an eye on the moves and the positioning, because it helps you understand the way industry partners are using it and vendors are starting to integrate these tools in. And then we're going to see a lot of, this is going to be the first time that we see non-industry technology break into the industry without needing verticalized resources to do it, because AI can overlay on data way better than, a Salesforce CRM or a HubSpot CRM or, a Spotify or a Shopify or something else that's outside of industry break in at the retail level. So it'll be interesting to see how all these things move over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I hadn't thought about it, but we should keep an eye on sort of like the exhibitor list at NADA coming up and see who else is on there beyond Amazon. If Salesforce has a presence and some of these other these AI technologies start to like have a presence with booth space, and what is it they're pitching dealers? It'd be interesting to see in a few months.
That'd be interesting. Hey, we're only a few months away from that. Steve, thanks for being with us today. It's a great Friday to be in the car business, kicking off the first weekend in September. And hey, we got a little bit of news for you, but still got to sell some cars.